That is the sound of Valencia in March. Every March, it is the sound of Fallas, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today.
Awesome. So, welcome to Made in Spain, everyone. My name is Laura Senior Garcia. I am your co host, along with.
Nalini Sharma, and today we are focusing on the annual celebration of Fallas in Valencia. Laura, why don't you start? And first of all, what is a falla or fallas?
Okay, so Fallas has a very interesting progression through history. So, those of you that maybe have heard about Fallas, what you've probably seen, and you've probably kind of maybe seen on TV or, kind of seen on YouTube videos or whatever, are these massive statues or sculptures that are made from different materials. They're very colorful, etc. But I just want to kind of walk our audience through like where it comes from and what is an actual fire.
Okay, but we should mention that it only takes place in the Valencian community. This is so if you, I mean, we both recommend that you should put it on your to-do list if you're going to visit Spain. It has to be in March, but you also have to go to Valencia.
Yes, there are other places in the Valencian community where you can go and see fallas, but it's just not going to be as spectacular. It will still be busy, there'll still be a lot of lively streets, etc., but you won't have that same feeling as in Valencia. The fallas are truly
Yeah,
Valencian.
so don't go to Madrid and expect to see it.
No, there is no fallas. There are no fallas in Madrid. There are no fallas anywhere else outside of the Valencian community. And for those of you who may want to experience it, the dates are actually the whole, let's say, festival starts
Right.
on the 1st of March
Yeah.
and it ends on the 19th of March. The fallas themselves are actually up from the 14th or the 15th of March to the 19th. You can
Right.
start seeing them put them together on the streets. But anyway, we'll get a bit more into that
Okay, so
later.
let's do a little bit about the history of Fallas.
So, very, very interesting how this developed because from the medieval times to the 18th century, what it was is that Saint Joseph, which is also the Father's Day here, is the day of Saint Joseph.
Yes.
That's the 19th of March. So, Saint Joseph was, I believe, maybe still is, the saint patron of carpenters.
Right.
So on the 19th of March, which is St. Joseph's Day, which is also Father's Day, the carpenters in Valencia would take out all their old pieces of wood that they hadn't used that year. You know, the winter's over, it's kind of going into a new season, going into spring, etc. And they would put like a little bonfire together and just burn it off. And specifically something called parot, which parots are these things that they would hold their oil lamps on.
Right.
So I guess maybe they were somewhat impregnated with some of the oil or something so that they burnt really well.
So it's from that,
Medieval to the 18th century.
but I read that they would hang the parrot outside of their shops.
Yeah.
And from that is where it sort of started to actually evolve into becoming these, from that simple little tiny thing into the spectacular structures that you
So
see now.
that's the starting point.
Yeah.
Then 18th to the 19th century, they started to go, oh, maybe we can do something with these pieces of wood.
Right.
They started dressing up the pieces of wood and putting up like wax and different things on them. And usually they would be satirical in nature. So
Right.
they would be making fun of some local politician, some local person, and they were all over different neighborhoods. They would pick different people to make fun of, basically. And they would dress up these like pieces of wood and, burn them off the same night. So it always happens like the same night, which is the night of La Crema, which
Right.
means the burning,
Yes.
right? So that was up to the kind of 19th century. And then 20th century onwards is when you start seeing these different neighborhoods making these fires, which when you see them, it is unbelievable to think, oh my goodness, all of this is being put together to be burnt down.
To be burnt down. And one thing that we were not able to really get this year, but we are planning on doing it next year,
Yeah.
is to actually talk to the artisans
Yes.
to find out, how do you feel after a year's worth of work
Yeah.
and the competition and all the emotion and money that goes into it? How do you feel when it burns down?
Yeah.
Like, I'm very curious. Is it cathartic? Are you happy? Are you, you think, oh no, I got to do this all over again?
I think for some people, it is just such an incredible experience of being a part of something that, like you said, it's almost like ephemeris in nature, where it's
Yeah.
like, okay, you put all this money and effort, and then it's gone, after that one night. And you can imagine all the city has all these different fires, like 700 plus, right? And they're all burning at the same time. I mean, it's quite spectacular. So I think there is a kind of like oh, and also it's worth mentioning, it did have some kind of pagan root,
Right.
which is interesting that, as Catholic as this country has been traditionally, that they didn't try to stop it. And that, on top of everything, it was the same night that a saint is being celebrated. So anyway, that's a little bit of the back history, but I do think it is very special that something so beautiful does, get destroyed.
And what I found with a lot of these festivals or traditions or things that are celebrated is that there's never really a clear answer as to when did there's a origin to it, there's a history to it, but then it just sort of slowly starts to evolve. And I think what's happened with, the Fallas, for example, it becomes something where it brings in a lot of money. And
Yeah.
now you have artisans who've gone through, I mean, I don't know, but maybe there is a Falla University. I'm gonna think maybe there's
I'm not
like,
sure if there's a university,
how do
but
you learn to?
there's certainly, okay. So there's a number of things happening there, but there's certainly like an incredible kind of craftsmanship that comes along with it.
And
Because you saw them. I mean, they're
yeah,
absolutely
don't you think
gorgeous.
it would be passed down from
I'm sure.
one generation to the next?
It's a very, very tradition oriented festival. So I think one thing that's just worth mentioning, I do think in terms of the meaning of it for a lot of people is about, this kind of partying. And if you think about the timing, it's
Mm-hmm.
before Easter. So even though it's not Mardi Gras or Carnival or anything, there's
Right.
this kind of partying and thing going on, and then all of a sudden it's like you go into Easter, which is a very serious holiday here,
Yes.
right? So that's a little bit about that. So Nalini, why don't you tell us a little bit about which fire won
Okay.
this year, and what happens to the fires that win, and what does that look like? Is it a competition?
It is a competition, and that's what people should know. So you have the major fallas, which are in the competition, but then you also have sort of minor
Mm-hmm.
fallas, and this past year, I don't know if anybody saw it, but it's the one with the woman's face and
Oh,
the
it's so
flowers.
beautiful.
That wasn't actually a major falla, that was a minor one, but that almost became the emblem
Yes.
of this year. Okay, so there are about 800 fallas, big and small. There are 20 different sections that you can compete in, but the one that won this year, it was put out by, I'm going to try to pronounce this properly, Convento Jerusalén Matematico Marsal Commission.
Wow.
Okay, so they won in three different categories, and that falla cost 250,000 euros. And the name of it is or in Valencian, or
Or which is
gold,
gold.
or oro in
Yeah.
Castellano. So
Yeah. Awesome.
that's the one that won. And I mean, it's hard to describe because it's not one thing, it is just a collection of different stories. So it's a man and a woman, and they look sort of fairy like. They're different shades of gold. But then, if you sort of walk around and you inspect every little area, they have different stories and different things. So, unless you see it in person, it's really hard to
To
take, yeah, to
describe.
take it all in. But the fire that wins is also spared being burned.
Yes. So it's like indulted, right?
Yes.
And also, I believe there's a little one that gets indulted. No, it's like the big one, but then they may pick like a little one part of one of the other fires as well, and
This
it goes to the museum,
Yeah,
right?
this particular Falla that won this year won in those three categories. So it was the first time since 1990 that one Falla won for the major prize, the infantile, and then to be
Wow.
indulted, yeah, into the museum.
Awesome.
So, I mean, maybe it's about the amount of money they've spent too. I mean, a quarter of a million euros. It's a lot of money.
And that's not even like one of the most expensive ones, because I know from the research that we've done, they have had fires go up to almost 1 million euros.
Yeah,
So imagine that, right? You put 1 million euros into building this incredible piece of art, and then it gets burned.
yeah,
So pretty crazy.
it is, but beautiful
Yeah, it,
at
it
the
is
same
it
time.
is beautiful. I really recommend to our listeners that to get that visual picture of what they look like, go on socials, go on, Google just like Fallas Valencia 2025, and you will see these images of these beautiful, the one that Nalini was talking about where it's the lady's face
Mm.
with flowers all around her head is absolutely gorgeous.
And the one of the minor fallas actually was, it said the slogan, Valencia is on fire.
Yes, which is the name of our episode
Yeah.
today.
And that was a minor falla.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really, it didn't win anything. But again, it just became the slogan,
Yeah,
you
which
know?
I loved it. As
Me
soon
too.
as I
It's
saw
super
that, I thought
cute.
that was
That's
super
super
cool.
cute.
Awesome. So maybe let's talk a little bit about the falleros and the
Yes.
falleras.
Okay. Now, this is very interesting because this is a huge honor.
Hmm.
And we were talking about this yesterday. It's not a beauty pageant.
No, it's not.
It's it- it's uh it's an honor. It's something that, you take pride in your community and the event that's happening. And also, it's a family tradition.
Yes. So let's put it this way: the fallero and fallera, mostly falleras. I have the men do get involved, but it's
Mhm.
mostly related to the women. So there's one fallera for each falla, like
Right.
the representative of that falla. The fallera mayor, which means 15 years plus,
Right.
and the fallera infantil, which is the one that's the under 15 years.
Right.
So there's always like a young lady under 15 representing the fire and someone over 15 representing the fire,
Okay.
female. So it's really interesting because the way they get selected is, can they represent the neighborhood, because each fire belongs to one particular neighborhood. Can they attend all these events? Because there's events going on like the whole year round that the falleras go to.
Yeah.
And also, do they have the economic ability to, buy the dresses or have the dresses to be handed down from,
Okay. So what would
different
a
generations?
dress look like then?
So the dress, interestingly enough, is based on what the Valencian noble families would wear in the 18th century.
Okay.
So I don't know why, but it hasn't changed. And the way the material and the brocades and all of this beautiful material, and they basically are fully covered, like socks and everything. I mean, I think the only thing they're showing is their hands and their face, so which is quite interesting. And there are lots of different layers, so they look like almost like if you picture like what the royalty would wear, but with some very unique things.
Okay.
So, for example, they wear their hair in this like almost snail. If any of you have watched Star Wars,
Yeah, like Princess
like
Leia.
Prince
Yeah, on the
Leia
side.
sort of
Yeah.
thing on the sides,
Yeah.
and it's super intricate to make those as well.
Right.
It takes them hours, to get their hair done for that. And the dresses, yeah, also are decorated usually with silver or gold thread,
Okay.
and they can range on the lower range between 1,000 and 2,000 euros,
Mhm.
and on the higher range upwards of 20,000 for one dress. Now, the week of the fires, they've got to have at least 2 or 3 dresses that they're getting changed in and out of.
Wow.
So sometimes they are handed down by the, like, let's say, oh, your sister was a fire or your mom, and it's super
Right.
well preserved. But a lot of times, as you can imagine, when they get that honor, it's like, oh, I want a new dress.
Of
you know?
course. Of
It's like-
course.
so yeah, it's very, very unique. And then out of the whole of Valencia, there is one fallera mayor
Okay.
picked to represent, and one fallera infantil, the whole city.
Wow.
So, and that's a really big deal, like,
Yeah.
because they have to be able to do this speech of acceptance in front of everyone, and like
Wow.
supposedly address humanity. That's the way they describe it.
No
It's like,
pressure.
dial in,
No
address
pressure. Yeah.
humanity, represent Valencia. So yeah, it's pretty intense.
What is amazing to me is that these are traditions that have been passed down, that they haven't really been modernized into, where it is a beauty pageant. It's more
No.
of, it's an honor to represent your community and then to go on and represent the entire community of Valencia.
And imagine, I mean, it's a super big responsibility. So again, they have stuff they have to do through the year. They have to address people. They have to take pictures with everyone and all this kind of stuff. And then, of course, there's, partying, because there's a part of that. And then having to get up the next day and do it again and look your best. I mean, it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
From the moment it starts to the night of la crema, that's 19 days.
19 days. And it didn't start off as 19 days. It was much
No.
shorter, but over time, I think people
Well,
really wanted to
we like to make
enjoy
the most out of it in this
the
part of the
party.
world, right? So, hee hee.
I will say there is a feeling in the city, there's a palpable energy
Oh, yes.
to be there during that time. And you can't really describe it unless you're there.
Yes, but book hotels, book
Yes.
restaurants, book everything you
Book
need to book
everything. Yes.
way in advance.
Yeah.
The hotels sometimes get booked like a year in advance. So I'm not saying you're not going to find anything, but definitely plan for it. So let's talk a little bit about the mascletas, Nalini. I
Okay.
can't wait to hear from you on
Yeah.
this.
Okay. Now, this is interesting because first, you sort of think mascleta is a firework that
Hmm.
you set off in the day. And the first time I heard it, I think from Benidorm or wherever. Actually, I saw it in Alfaz,
Yeah.
them doing some parade and just setting it off. And I thought, doesn't make any sense because it's 8 o'clock in the morning and it's just smoke. And how can you see the fireworks?
Yeah. Because I think
The-
the maybe other side of it is that when people think of fireworks, they think of like
Yeah,
pretty.
but that's not what it is.
No.
It's well, it's the traca. So it kind of rolls out into, let's say, a firecracker carpet of some
Yes.
kind. And then you light it and it makes all these sounds like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can't describe it. But the origins of it start in the, again, a little murky. One thing is for sure, people in the Valencian community love their fireworks,
We
firecrackers.
obviously like to set things on fire. I don't know what's going on, but
Yeah.
yes.
But the origin of it is a little murky. So they think it started in the 18th century, back to the Tracas of Almansa, which
Mm,
is a city near Valencia.
Valencia. Yeah.
And then it just became sort of a celebration that, where it was a moving celebration, they would set it off and men would kind of walk behind it, maybe dance, maybe celebrate. But it wasn't really until 1945 that the actual mascletas, they moved it to the Plaza de Ayuntamiento
Yes.
in the center of the city. So
it's
it became,
basically the town hall
yeah,
square.
the square.
Yeah.
And that was from the 11th of March in the mid 1940s. And from there, it just started to
Grow.
grow. So it was really from mid March up until La Crema, the night. And now it's from the 1st of March. It is a stationary event. So you're not really following it as you go through the city. So in the 1986, that's when it started to be held daily from the beginning of March or so. And now it is in terms of the amount of gunpowder that they use. So in 2008, that was the largest amount of gunpowder that they used. It was up to 530 pounds or 240 kg.
Every day or
Mhm.
for the whole time?
No,
Each
that
day?
was like, no, that was for the day. Like that's what you could
Oh
set
my
up.
goodness.
And then the next year, common sense prevailed.
Yes.
And in 2009, they said for safety reasons, they decided to limit the gunpowder to 265 pounds or about 120 kg. So
Wow.
that's the limit. And what's interesting about it is that if you just I mean, I guess you must have to have an ear for it because it is evolved. It's become a lot more electronic,
Yes.
in the way they're able to set it off. But it is a solid 10 minutes. It's a symphony.
Yes. It
There's
is.
a
There's
sound.
like a music and there's an up and
Yeah.
down. But I want to ask you, because this was your first year,
Yeah.
how did it feel? Like what was going through your mind? Because obviously you can try and mentally prepare for it and go, okay, it's gonna be loud. There's gonna be a bunch of things, blowing up. But how did it feel?
Um, it was actually really an amazing experience, and it's a little bit addictive.
Yeah.
You get there and you think, oh, it's just gonna be some sounds, whatever, and we'll have a glass of wine or some little snack, and then go on with our day. But you kind of get there and you get into the excitement of it, and you want to be part of it, and then it goes off, and you think more.
I more.
Yeah, let's do it again,
It is an
And they
adrenaline rush.
100%, and they do it again at night.
Yes,
So,
that's the one that we passed on because we are afternoon people, but it
we
was like
decided.
midnight. I think they do another mascleta, right? I think
Yeah,
it's like midnight, 2 p.m.
yeah,
and midnight. So you can imagine if you've been kind of going at it, since like after 2 p.m. But it's very, very special,
it is.
and we were close. And we'll talk about it more in our slice of life, but we weren't that close. So when people get like right in front,
Yeah,
and I don't know what it was, but I think last year they started telling people like don't wear earplugs for some reason, because sometimes you think you're
yeah.
protecting your ears, but it actually somehow has the opposite effect because of the vibration or something.
Oh, I
No.
mean, if you go with a young child, I would say buy the
Oh yeah.
headphones for
Yep.
over the
Like
ears.
be
But
careful.
yeah, and I will. Okay, this is really funny though, but because this past March it was rainy. Do you remember when we went? We
Yes.
were really worried that they were going to cancel. So they did cancel a few days.
People were like outraged.
Oh, don't worry, because they're going to make up for it.
When are they gonna do them?
Mother's Day, they're
Más
going
que
to
da.
do they're
There you
going to
go.
do it. Also, two more on the 11th of May and the 22nd of June.
Do you want to bet that that's because they have to use the gunpowder
Yeah, they are not going to let people miss 3 days.
of their
They're making up
fireworks?
for it. Official
Absolutely.
on the Valencian website.
That is
Yeah.
hilarious. So maybe let's talk a little bit about what the fires, because obviously, as you have heard from what we're sharing with you, it's a lot of money to put these fires
Mhm.
together. It's a lot of money to put the mascletas together. Some of them, I think, get up to a couple €100,000 in fireworks. I mean,
Exactly.
a day.
Yeah.
So you think, what, First of all, who funds the fires? So the fires are mostly funded by the neighborhood. They
Right.
do all kinds of things to collect money through the year, dinners, raffles, this, that, and the other, and they fund it through that. The small fires can range between 10 and 50,000 euros to put together, the really small ones, and then the other ones can go from 200,000 to up to like €1 million.
Wow.
So you can have very, very expensive fires. The Valencian government does help and they do support, but a lot of the actual fires are funded by the actual casals that are the ones
Right.
that are in charge of their own fire.
It's basically the month of March. I
Yeah.
mean, if you were just to add, it's the month of March. It brings in an incredible amount of tourism to the city and, I mean, money.
Yeah, so estimated at about 5 to 700 million euros is
Yeah.
what it
Yeah.
produces for the city, and there's like 1 million plus people that actually visit the city for fires. So that's why we were saying, it is important to book in advance. Also to think about that. Imagine how many jobs that's generating, because like you said, this is not something that they start working on in March. These things are,
It's the whole year.
the whole year. So there's people, artisans, people who are pyrotechnics, which again, that's a pretty cool job to have,
Yeah.
right? It's just like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I basically specialize in blowing things up. So and also the events that are around it, and all the money is like obviously in fees, but also in the materials, in putting the whole thing together, and also in insurance in case of weather. So they
Oh,
do
okay.
have like insurance that they
Right.
take out on the fires in case of like the weather,
Because
could ruin them.
the last few years, March has been like torrential rain.
Yeah, exactly. We've had some pretty weird marches, you could say.
And if people are worried about the safety, I have to say that outside of, I mean, just being careful with your purse,
Yeah.
I mean, use some common sense and wear
Hmm.
your stuff in front of you or in your pocket with a zip. It's pretty safe.
Yeah, I would say so. I think the one thing to watch out for is I would not recommend going with a child that has any kind of sensory issues
Oh my goodness,
to
no.
Valencia during that time.
No.
And speaking from experience, you do not want to do that because it's not just at the Mascletas.
It's the whole city.
Everybody's setting like little petardos, is what
Yeah,
they're called, firecrackers
all
off
day.
everywhere, and you're suddenly like find yourself going,
Yeah,
like it's
yeah,
like walking around getting scared at different points. So
yeah. And be prepared to walk as well. Don't think you can just hop in a taxi and get to where you need to go
absolutely.
because you won't.
So Nalini, I want to ask you. So after seeing some of this up close, what do you think this means to the Valencianos?
Actually, it gave me a sort of a new respect for the tradition to experience it firsthand because I mean, I'm an outsider, you know, looking in, and I have to say, I was so happy to experience, like, I was like emotional
Yeah.
when we were, I mean, we've become really good friends.
Yes.
And it was just really nice that the two of us were together to have that moment because you had never experienced it.
I had never experienced it either. A much smaller scale in Alicante or
Right,
Benidorm, but just because my family is not particularly keen of like a lot of people in the same place at the same time.
right.
Like, no, yeah, my brother's gone a few times and that kind of thing, but I
Yeah.
had not. So it was super emotional.
Yeah, and we were together and it was just really nice. It was
Yeah.
a really wonderful experience. And also to see the pride that you have just, I mean, where we were, we'll talk about that in our slice of life, but
Yes.
you have everybody. You have professionals, you have kids, you have families, grandmas, grandpa. Everybody is out on the streets taking part in it. And I mean, this is a daily occurrence. So, first of all, they've got a lot of stamina
Yes.
because it's
Always blows my mind at Peñas, at Fallas. It's like, where do people get the energy from? You know, it's like, because it's not like 2 days.
no, it's they go hard for
Yeah.
19 days,
Yeah.
but it was I felt very honored. I
Mhm.
felt very privileged that you know, I got to be part of it and we got to experience it together.
Oh, you're
And
tearing me up.
yeah, but next year it's going to be bigger and better. Like we might be there for 19 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Watch this space. Okay, so our slice of life is
Yay.
next. Slice of
Okay, so where should we start? Maybe we should start just to pick up from where we left off with the mascletas.
life.
We went to Valencia and we went to Ateneo Sky Bar.
And we stayed at the Westin. It's the
Yes.
only Westin in Valencia. I would actually recommend the hotel, although it's on a little bit older side.
Hmm.
It's got a beautiful patio inside, and it's really quite a nice hotel.
Very
And
nice.
not that expensive if you book it with enough time in advance. That's the
Right.
one thing about Valencia that I don't think we've mentioned, that the difference between, like, let's say Valencia, Madrid, and Barcelona is a lot of times Valencia is a lot more inexpensive
Compare, yeah, when you compare
compared
it.
to Madrid and Barcelona for hotels, restaurants, etc. So, yeah, stayed at the West End.
And so to experience the mezcletas, you either have to make your way to the plaza, which you need to do ahead of time because they go off if you're going to the daytime
Yeah.
celebration. It is exactly at 2 p.m. It's not 2:10, 2:05. It's 2 o'clock. They go off, which means people are probably there 2 hours before if you want to experience it street
If
level.
you want frontline, like, you're
You
there
have
for
to
a
go
while.
early.
It's kind
Yeah.
of like when you go to a concert and you want to be right at the front, you have to go really early. So, and it can be, it wouldn't be my preference personally because it can be a little bit claustrophobic
Yes.
because you've got all the people right behind you
Right.
and it feels like maybe there's not a lot of movement. So we decided to take a slightly different tactic
Yeah.
and book one of the big terraces, like Ateneo Sky, which is kind of a place that you can go for Tardeo, and there's a DJ. So, how did that feel for you, Nalini? Like, did you like it? Do you think that was the kind of right way to go about it?
I would say next year if we were going to do it because you know, we were just kind of moseying along in the hotel. I don't know. I think I'm usually in my mind, I'm the only person going to something. So there will not be a lineup. There's
Oh
not going to
no,
be a crowd.
never.
It's going to be a 2 minute walk. And then you kind of realize, oh, wow, there are 25,000 people walking in front of me
Yeah.
and there's a lineup.
And forget about taxis, forget
Yeah,
about Ubers, because
you gotta
the other thing is
walk.
all the roads, right, are closed
Roads
off.
are closed. So, I mean, again, we got there. We end up spending a little bit extra to get into the 12 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
We arrived around, I would say 1:20ish, 1:30. We probably should have been there at
Earlier.
noon
Yeah.
because people, even though they're not fireworks, so you see the smoke, you see the color, but even if you're staying further back, you can still see the colors
Yes.
after the fact. It's just that feeling of, well, I want to be first.
Yeah.
You know, why am I not first? We sent my son probably 4 times to a VIP area, and I said, could you please just tell her we'll give her like I don't
Some
know,
money.
some money to
Let
let
it,
us in
let us in there.
the
Like,
VIP.
nope.
Yeah. And he went, he was relentless with we could not get in.
No.
So we ended up
We
going,
tried. We tried to bring our
yeah.
charm on, but it didn't work.
Yeah, we went to the top patio area,
Hmm.
which wasn't as crowded. A little further back, it was a bit cold, it was a bit windy. But what I realized is that across the street is a hotel, Melia, and if we had booked a room in there, for the price that we paid, if we had booked ahead of time, it would have been either quite close or maybe just a little bit more to have a front line with your own private terrace.
Yes.
So that was just a learning experience. I mean, it was fantastic where we were. There was a DJ, we had some drinks, there was dancing. We would have stayed longer, but maybe not so appropriate for a 13-year-old.
But he was still fully okay to be there. Like I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
want to
yeah, yeah.
point
Yeah,
out
there were
that
kids,
we
like there
were
were babies
we
in,
didn't sneak him in there.
no,
Like
there were babies in the
yes,
pram, so it was fine. But I think,
Nalini and I were just getting into the Tardeo atmosphere and got
and
very quickly pulled out of that.
yeah,
But
with, yeah, our
it's like
companions.
yes. So one thing I want to also mention about that again, if you plan to go and then just party or walk around or have a few beers or whatever it is you want to do for the rest of the afternoon, the atmosphere out at that time of the day is extremely good.
It's really, really, I mean, it's amazing. And the other thing that I found really fascinating is that where we were, there was a police helicopter that
Watching
really
over,
watched the
yes,
entire, I mean, the helicopter would hover over.
where they were.
It was relentless. It was the whole time until they set the
And if you
mascotas off.
think about it, very crowded place, fireworks, etc. Yeah, so I
No,
think
I
that
think it
they're just
was,
watching out for
yeah, I think it
everyone.
was, I mean, when you are in that environment and you think that there's going to be all this sound
Hmm.
that for a solid 10 minutes you can't hear anything else, I felt very safe.
Yeah, I so did I.
Yeah.
And fun fact that I think that's really cool, a couple of weeks after we were there, Forbes actually came out and named Valencia the best city in the world to retire in.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, would you retire there, Nalini? Like, would you say if like
Um,
do you think you would retire in Valencia? Or would you say to people that maybe from, North America or other areas, like, would you say it's a good place to retire?
I would say so. I mean, I've been to different parts of Valencia as well, and I mean, they're really beautiful neighborhoods where you can be sort of just outside the city, but maybe 10, 15 minutes into the city. I don't know if I would retire there, but it would be really cool to have a little like
Apartment.
apartment that
Yes.
you, I mean, where we are, it's not a big city, and sometimes you miss that feeling of
And also just the cultural events, right? Because
there's
there's
so many
that's
things.
the other thing. And since we are talking slice of life, I want to give tips and recommendations as well. So Nalini mentioned the Melia Hotel in the Town Hall Plaza.
Yes.
If you can get that, I mean, you're really in a great place for Falla. So that's number one. The other thing as well is when you go to Valencia, if you have kids, or even if you don't have kids, but with kids, I think it's a pretty cool experience. They have the oceanographic, and
Hmm.
it's this beautiful installation. They even have four beluga whales there
Yeah.
now. Two of
And
them came from Ukraine,
and
actually.
they have the science museum.
Yes, and it's an enclosure where they have all this marine life, but it's all focused on preservation. So I've always felt, I always feel a little bit off going to like a zoo or an animal park because I feel sad about seeing the animals there. But when you go to the oceanographic, you don't really feel that much because you can see that the enclosures that they're in are very, very well done, and like people, you can see that the animals are extremely well taken care of, and their focus is biodiversity and
Right.
ensuring that some of these species continue to exist.
And I think it's a very child-friendly city. It
Super.
has something for everyone. And the Valencia typically has really great concerts. So here in Spain, like there's the concert season from,
Yes.
let's say June to August,
I
September-ish,
don't know
where
how many festivals, but there's a ton of music festivals in
and you
Valencia.
get, I mean, A-list artists
Yes.
performing in Valencia.
Yep.
So it's easier and more accessible, at least for us, than to go to Madrid or Barcelona.
Yes. So we always do a food
Okay. And
and a
today
drink,
I'm very interested because this is horchata, which
and it's your
is
first time trying
my
it.
first time trying it. Now, it is made with tiger nuts, which, by the way, is not a nut. It's a tuber. So it's in the same family of a potato, a radish.
Really?
Yeah.
They look like tiny little rotten potatoes. That makes sense.
That's what it is.
That's what
It
they
has,
look like.
and it apparently was originally cultivated in Egypt. And,
Mm.
as migration, the Moors, Arab rule made its way to Spain. And this is a drink that is particular to the Valencian community.
I don't think you'll find horchata anywhere else.
No.
So the tiger nuts in Spanish are called chufas,
Yes.
which is, I don't know why, which is a really funny name.
Yeah.
So we have our ASMR
Yes.
part of the podcast where we get to drink the horchata. And with the horchata, we are eating fartons.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about these fartons, Nalini?
It's basically just it's like a sweet kind of croissant situation. And the typical way you do it is you dunk it in the horchata.
Which we're doing right now.
Okay, wait.
So-
First, I have to try because I've never
Okay.
tried it.
I told you you weren't going to like it.
No, I don't dislike it.
It's just, I don't know what it is.
Okay, I'll try again.
And again, I've drank horchata many times, but I can never get my head quite wrapped around that last taste there.
It's very floral.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, the farton dipped in the horchata, though.
I mean,
that's another story.
I could get to like it, maybe.
Could you? I remember as a kid, they used to give it to us as a treat, and I was like, ew, like they really did not enjoy it.
This is a good combo.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good combo.
This is breakfast, so it's got like a almost medicine thing at the end.
I don't know what it is.
Mm-mm.
Okay, listen, I'm not Spanish and I'm not saying anything bad about it because nobody's going to come for me, but I don't dislike it.
I can say it.
Yeah, you can say it. I don't it's not terrible. My son doesn't like it. He's like, "Oh, have you tried it?" I said, "No." He said, "Oh, I don't think you'll like it."
I just got horchata all over my clothes. So.
Okay.
So
now in Valencia, they have traditional horchaterias where
Yes.
you go and they make it in the traditional way. We bought this at the supermarket, but it is, like you said, something that you would only find here.
So look out if you want some recommendations for the actual artisan horchata. We will leave that in one of our socials. But yes, horchata and fartons. Sorry, my mouth is still a little bit full. Fartons are quite delicious. It's almost like the shape of like a big churro, but
Yeah, it's
just more
flaky.
airy,
Yeah,
more
it's
flaky.
It's like sort of like a croissant.
So you would say that horchata is like the OG of like almond milk,
It
oat
is,
milk, all these
honestly,
different
yeah.
milks that are not milk. This is tiger nut milk. That's basically what it is.
And apparently without the sugar, it's
Which
supposed
there's
to be
a tremendous amount
quite
of in
healthy
there.
for you.
So you dip something that is full of sugar in something that's full of sugar.
Yeah.
But, it's breakfast. So awesome. So couple more things that we just wanted to share with you in our Slice of Life. A few recommendations for those of you who are going to make the decision to travel to Valencia. So for sure, if you're going to have the horchata and the fartons in the Alboraia area,
Yes.
that's where you will find that there. And restaurant recommendations, wanted to do a shout out to La Taula de Yun, which is a Korean restaurant,
Oh,
authentic
interesting.
Korean restaurant,
Okay.
really, really delicious. And then the typical place to go for prawns and cigalas and all that is Marisqueria Cibera. It's
Okay.
been there forever and it's one of the best in Valencia. And last one that I actually tried with my husband not very long ago was Bar X by Ricard Camarena in the Mercado de Colón, and that's a really cool place. It's like
nice.
tapas, but kind of a modernized version of very traditional tapas, and they are super good. So that's Bar X by Ricard Camarena.
And when we were there, we ate at Salvaje Valencia, which in my opinion, I would not recommend.
No. And sorry, Salvaje, but it's
Yeah.
quite overhyped, I would say. And, they kind of brought all the food out before we ever had our drinks. So there's a bit of something going on there.
Yeah.
And then finally, the Tardeo, the Ateneo Sky.
Oh, that was super
That
fun.
was super cool.
Yeah.
So, like, if you want to try that, I think you will really, really love it. Okay.
Okay.
So,
Let me
it's
sit back.
time.
Let me get ready. I'm
The
ready.
sentence of the day.
Okay.
So I thought for today, since we're talking about milk in one way or another, and this is probably the first of a series because this sentence, it gets morphed into a lot of different things in Spanish. So again, as I said, at the beginning of season 2, we were going to start smooth and go increasingly
Difficult.
and
All right.
increasingly like a little bit more conflicting. So I'm going to say it
Right.
in Spanish and you try and figure out what it means.
Okay.
So the sentence is, me cago en la leche.
Okay. Was
Me cago en la leche.
something with your milk?
So
With the milk?
translation in English is,
Yes.
I poop in milk.
That's what I wanted to say, but I didn't want to say it.
Okay. So
Um,
Spanish people, when do you think that they say that? Me cago en la leche.
like when they're really angry.
Yes. Now, why in milk? Why that? I have no idea, but it's something that you will hear very, very often. So,
Really?
like, if let's say, for example, something goes wrong, or gosh, like the tire broke down in the car or something, and that is something people will say.
Oh, I
Like,
see. Okay.
guaranteed. But like I said, the first part followed by a lot of different
Yeah.
things is very, very common here. And it's something that you would hear like your grandmother say. It's not like,
So
something
it's
very,
something that you say in the moment out of
Yeah.
frustration.
like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. So,
I'm going to listen for it now.
yeah, you will hear it
Yeah.
for sure. Okay, well, closing reflection that we wanted to share with you is Fallas definitely isn't just a festival. It's a full heart experience. You feel it with your heart, you see it with your eyes. It's very sensory, so super recommended. And it's something for the soul.
Absolutely. Yeah. This was a great episode.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Please remember to subscribe, and especially in the podcast platforms, because
Yeah.
then you're not going to miss an episode. We would love to hear from you. So please make sure that you write either questions, comments, and the recommendations. Don't just use it for recommendations. We want to interact with our audience.
Absolutely.
And thank you for being a part of Made in Spain. Hasta luego.
Adios.
The Made in Spain podcast is an Everything's Rosy production, with executive producers and host Nalini Sharma and Laura Senior, with special thanks to production assistant Ayrton Nath.